Coach Stanley, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. This is I've been anxious to get you on with the whole MMA side of things, the gym. Busy man. This I'm sure this time of year, especially, right?
Yes, sir. We're wide open. Wide open. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So, just quick recap. I know you had some D1 wrestling experience and MMA experience, but little recap. You're
Yeah.
down in North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir. North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. I went my first year at NC State and then transferred over to App. And yeah, it was a 125er up there and got beat up a little bit. Took a knee injury and it kind of transitioned me over. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of had
um,
a talking off air, similar paths. That weight cut kind of
yeah.
made things a little difficult. And then that knee injury, did that kind of put you in position for the transition to MMA, or is that kind of how that
Yeah,
sprung?
I mean, it was a lot together. I was cutting too much, and like we talked about before, it got to a point for me where I didn't love wrestling the same. I was more cutting, or I was more trying to make the weight, and wasn't as focused on competing as much. And then with the knee injury and trying to finish off that season, it put a bad taste in my mouth. And I was young, and so. Um, it made me have more of a focus towards MMA. I started pursuing that a little more. I got away from grappling as a whole and really fell in love with striking. I started doing a lot of Muay Thai under Rick Davis out of North Carolina. He was a world champ kickboxer and great coach. He's coached most of the strikers out of North Carolina. Have at least come through him to some extent. So great dude. And then took my first fight soon. We discussed it a little bit. Took my first fight early, and my coach wasn't excited about it. He actually said he wasn't going to corner me if I took it, but I was stubborn and young and took the fight and won my first one via guillotine choke. And so it was like worst case scenario. I thought I was tough and
Even more confidence.
exactly the worst thing. So they gave me like an amateur title fight, my second fight, and got choked out in a triangle. And it was like humbling. It was that kind of I told you so moment for my coach and reeled me back in, got me focusing back on jujitsu. And the funny part there was I started for my membership, as always, most fighters are teaching classes at the gym and stuff. So I started teaching wrestling to pay for my membership. So I still wasn't back in love with wrestling yet. I was doing that as a means to pay for my striking classes, my jujitsu, and then that brought in the coaching aspect, and I fell for it from there. And
Was
then
that kind of,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, and then we started off with small groups in the MMA gym, and then went back to coaching some middle school guys with my old coach, and it kind of led me back into it.
So it kind of got away from it a little bit and wrote back
That's
not wrote
right.
back in, but you can't get out, like some people say
That's
it's like
right.
the mob. You can't get out, you try
That's
to, and
right. That's
you're
right.
always in it, right?
Yep.
So now obviously combat athletics, right? Combat,
Yep.
that's your gym, right? So how
Yes,
long have
sir.
you been running that, and kind of
Um,
walk us through how that was created?
yeah, about a little over 8 years ago, I was actually still training, still fighting, making my way through, finding a good rhythm. I had like 10 fights, and then herniated a disc in my neck, and
Okay.
took me out of the game. I was not always smart in my fight career. As I said, I was a
Mm-hmm.
young man. I was fighting without insurance, working labor jobs, and I was always under the impression, like I was like, hey, if I get hurt in the cage, the MMA promotion has insurance, and so come to find out, you get hurt more in training, and so I took a blast double face up, just like I'd done a million times, and jammed my neck funny, and I didn't think it was as serious. I had a fight coming up, and I didn't even drop the fight for a couple of weeks. But as it went
Yeah, the
along, I kind of,
tingle in the arm and
yeah,
weak arm and
yep,
all that. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
I know
And
that feeling.
and and so it was kind of a godsend for me because, like, if I would have had insurance, I was in a lot of pain. I went downhill for about 6 months, really got locked up, and if I would have had the opportunity, I would have probably got a fusion, and it might have taken me off the mat. I'm not sure, but like I said, not very smart when I was young and fighting, and didn't have insurance, didn't have the surgery, had some good physical therapy people around me, and so at that moment, it was kind of like this could all end my whole fight. Cause I was, gung ho when I was going to fight in the UFC. Nobody could tell me nothing, like every kid. Right. And
Right, right.
so it humbled me, and it made me realize that even if I wanted to train and do this, I have to have something else. I have to keep building my future. So yeah, while I was injured, I was, laying on the floor training some softball girls. My best friend's wife. He wrestled or played football at NC state
Okay.
champ wrestler. Um,
Nice.
his wife was a softball coach, and Dawn, her name then was Singleton. She married my buddy, but she brought her team to me, and we started doing strength training there, and kind of built the gym from there.
Nice, nice. So what's the gym layout like? Obviously, you need space, right? If you're training a bunch of
Shoot,
athletes and different
yeah,
things, what's the layout like?
we have it's a 10,000 square foot facility, and we have 5,000 square foot of mats, but two of those roll up. It's on a turf, kind of indoor turf area. So those roll up, and so we have some speed and agility area, and then we have about 3,000 square foot on the other side of strength
Wow,
conditioning equipment.
wow,
So
that's good, good
it's
size.
yeah, it sounds better than maybe it is. We when I got that place, it was an old equipment rental building, and
Okay.
they rented out like bobcats and different saws and things like that. And so again, I bugged the guy to death until he would rent it to me, and then it was in rough shape, and I remember we had two squat racks and one wrestling mat to start with, and I didn't have anybody behind us, so we just kind of slowly, me and a guy that's been with me from the beginning, Shelton Sales, has done
Okay.
everything with me along the way. He was a 2-time state champ, and he's still a pro MMA fighter, but
Oh wow.
he's helped me along the way a lot, and we've just kind of one piece at a time built it, and the wrestling grind just churned away at it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you do obviously wrestling, MMA in there. What's the percentage of wrestling to MMA in there? Do you have an idea?
Oh,
Or?
not even close. Wrestling's way bigger for us.
Okay.
MMA turns into more of like a labor of love and a hobby
Okay.
more than anything, because
Okay.
a lot of those guys are struggling along, and they're trying to make ends meet. So it's not like a big money maker for the gym. It's more
Mhm.
of what some guys are passionate about. So our biggest programs are our wrestling program is the biggest, and then our strength training program and our jujitsu programs are our big things. We train a lot of baseball, football, softball, all kinds of athletes.
Oh wow, wow. So then on top of it, you also coach at the high school level, right? Head
Yes,
head
sir.
coach as
Lake
of
Norman High
last year,
School.
right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So
last year was my first year.
yeah. So this season for you guys are postponed. Is that correct? Currently, or what's
Yes,
it
we
look like?
start in April. We have like an
Okay.
8-week season, 9-week season. It's tough, but they're trying to give us an opportunity to compete, so it's good.
Nice. Yeah. So how's that look? With usually have your routine, right, of kind of peaking and this type of training. Do you just push that, that schedule back, or what are you doing with your athletes right now, or what's
It's been tough trying to figure that out, and we want to come into season in shape with it being a short season this year, and we're required to do a lot more duels. So we've been pushing hard now up until the end of the year. We had NHSCA duels last weekend. We go to Gatlinburg for a big tournament, the Bay Air duels this weekend, and then we'll slow down, give some kids some time off. And with the COVID situation going on, we're trying to bring everything back down and let it settle a little bit before the beginning of the year. We'll still be on the mats and stuff, but slow that down as far as our travel goes, and then we'll start trying to ramp back up a little bit as the new year comes, and we'll go probably February and March, crank up heavy. And so we're just transitioning, right, kind of treat it like a long season for us, but 2 months of that be a preseason build up.
okay? So that's dealing with the cards you're dealt, right? And then
Yep,
do what you
exactly.
can, right?
Yep.
So I was recently talking to Reese Humphrey last week, and talking about beach wrestling. You had a little bit of
Yeah.
experience with beach wrestling, right? What's your take? He
Yeah.
he loved it. He was all
Uh,
he loved it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a ball for 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years. We went every year and took the group, and we would stay on tents on the beach, and it was
Oh,
an
really?
amazing experience. Yeah, Carolina Beach, they have a spot where they allow you to drive your vehicles out there, and so we stayed out there for 2 days and had a
Oh.
blast. All the families came. So the boys one year, I forgot the deal, but they kept trying to get me to compete in it, and
Mhm.
so we got there, and they talked me into it. It was actually I was like a pound over the weight when we got there, and
Do you have
so
to bump or
so
what? Or do you have to
no, I
cut?
wasn't gonna bump. I was gonna be out of there. I wasn't going up there.
You're on
So
purpose, right? Saying I'm out.
yeah, yeah, I can't make it. So they kept talking junk to me. So we ran the beach a few times, and I wasn't in great shape. So it took me no time to lose that pound, and we jumped in it, and my wife was there with me and everything else. So I remember my first match was against a tough dude, and I'm more of a low single guy, and I
Okay.
like motion, and
Yeah.
space, and it's not space in
The
there, and
opposite of
you're
that,
going up,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So first match, it took me a little bit get my legs under me, and it was a long match, and it come down to the very end like a step out position, and I was just heavy on a wizard and being stubborn, and so his hand went out, and my face got buried in the sand, and I'm covered. And I remember I walked off and I acted cool about it or whatever. They raised my hand, and I had a huge bracket. All the kids have like 8 kids. I had like a full 16-man bracket. So I'm like, I'm standing under the shower, my head down, and my wife's like patting me on the back, and I'm like, I can't do this. She's like, the boys are here. You got to do it, So I got my lungs after that and battled back through it, and ended up winning it. But
Oh, did you?
it was
Nice.
fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. We had a
cool.
lot of fun. But
So,
like I said, I was the old man division, so it was different.
no, that's cool. So, did you get your neck fixed or was that tough on your neck or
No,
what?
no, that was a few years after. I've been back rolling. Like I
Okay.
said, great physical therapy and
Hmm.
maintenance. I have inversion tables and neck hammocks and
Okay.
massage guns and whatever I can do to keep it in
Okay.
shape.
That's what I was gonna. I had a little neck thing a few years ago, but I've been able to battle through it, try to take care of it, and
Yeah,
talking to Coach Bentley, he's here in Ohio, and his same thing. He's just make those muscles strong, and you're good. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
inversion table, I got an inversion table that helps a little bit,
You
just
use it?
hanging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
more of my
yeah,
lower
yeah.
back.
Right.
The
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
the
yeah.
lower back is great, but I
Hmm.
use it a lot. And then the massage gun's great for me too. And
Right. I got
my
one of those.
doctor's from yeah,
Yeah.
my doctor's familiar with all of it, so he's it's kind of one of those things where I'm gonna take it as long as I can. Then
Right.
eventually, if I have to get shots or whatever, I can get shots in the disc, and
Hmm.
then after that, it may be a fusion, but I'm hoping that'll be down the
Yeah, I mean
road.
they got the plates now too. The fake plates.
Exactly.
So the science is from 10 years ago is
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah, the table's more of just I have hereditary family stuff. So I'm fine. But I was like, if I can after a good workout or warm up, whatever it is, hang and
Yep.
whatever it is, kind of
Heck yeah.
prolong that, kick that can down the road, right?
That's right. That's right.
So well, cool. That's good. You didn't have that fusion. You can jump on the beach wrestling and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
so are
Right
you
back
officially
at it.
retired then? No more beach wrestling, or are you done?
No more beach wrestling for me, I don't think. I mean, I may. We still
Um,
compete. I still compete some jujitsu and stuff like
okay.
that. So I have fun with it, but definitely keep the ego out of it these days. So,
Yeah, yeah, that definitely. Yeah, Father Time's undefeated. So,
that's right.
talk a little bit about your coaches there at the gym. You got some other guys there that help along. Um,
Yeah, I already talked about Shelton Sales. He's a big part of our program, and the kids love him. He's on the. I mean, I'm on the mats every day, but Shelton is that guy that will kind of throw kids to the wolves on, and he's still active competitor. He's about to be 28, so he's kind of right
okay.
in his prime,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
two-time state champ, great kid, and we joke about it, but he's more on the kids level maybe than I am sometimes. Whereas I'm, we play that good cop bad cop well. He
Right.
can throw an arm around him maybe if I'm being a knucklehead to him or whatever, and he's a nurturer. He's like that mom role is what they
Gotcha.
call him,
Okay. Yep.
and he's great. And then we have a big man named Danny Meisenheimer who was he's like a Fargo All-American back in the day. He was a
Nice.
massive heavyweight, went to college and played football and wrestled, I believe. But and then he's been getting back in shape, so he's down to about 200 pounds and scrapping with kids again. He's about my age too, so he's a big help. And for me, it's important to have that big man in the room because, like I said, I like space, and we teach from different perspectives. Maybe
Hmm.
our tilts are not as friendly to the big boys, so sometimes we'll spread out and let Danny work those big guys out.
Okay. So do you have a so-called philosophy for the gym, or what kind of that it's built upon?
Not specifically. Ours is, obviously hard work, and you
Hmm.
get what you earn. An old,
Hmm.
brands quote, you get what you earn, where kids don't always like that or whatever,
Hmm.
especially post competition. But our whole wrestling program is built around we want to build North Carolina as a whole to where we can really compete on that national stage. And we've had some kids breaking through there, but all roads lead to getting our butt kicked on the national stage. There's one guy that wins. So we're trying to get them through that point and make them understand, when we're losing for a reason. And all our guys fall right into our vibe where, like I said, we had to grind it out, start our gym on our own and everything. So it's that blue collar feel and like the wrestling world as a whole. So, yeah, just a lot of gritty kids, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We were texting off air, how coaching's evolved, and you kind of said, you have a take on that. What's your take on how coaching has changed, from what it was to now?
Yeah, I mean, when I grew up, we didn't have the access to knowledge like kids do. I mean, internet was just coming along. You didn't have everything to reach out to, so you had more opportunities to learn in like clinics and more in-person things. And maybe it wasn't as technical back then as it is. I don't want to say that. I don't like to say it wasn't as technical, but it was different style for sure. And maybe a little more hard-nosed back then, I feel like. And now kids don't need wrestling. I feel like the same as we did back then. There's other avenues, healthy or not, whether it's the internet, whether it's video games or whatever. So you've got to make it more appealing to kids. You've got to kind of evolve with it. I keep coming back to the internet, but to that age, the social media game where you've got to have a cool factor behind it. I think kids like our vibe that we put off through social media and in person where, we put them in videos, we edit together stuff that, or I do a lot of that, but I try to do some editing and stuff and make them feel a part of the group and make them feel like it's the place to be, and otherwise we're just not gonna, it's the same as the military and everything else. It's got to evolve to keep these kids, the athletic kids, coming back to the sport. People are going to choose basketball and football and the more romantic sports, the more,
right.
flashy sports. Right. So making that, and I think our whole community is doing that. More shoes coming out, the gears evolving. Even like our little guys having the opportunity to wear a two-piece. I'm a singlet guy, but if I can get a kid that wouldn't put that singlet on to put a two-piece on and come wrestle, I'm going to do it. And as their confidence comes, they'll get in the singlet or whatever,
Yeah. That speaking of gear, that's a slick top you got there. Where's that from?
Thank you. That's yeah.
Slick.
What is their name, dude? XGrain. They do a great job. Cliff Fretwell is, I have a relationship with him, and I've done everything with him along the way. So definitely got to give Cliff and Compound a shout out. But these guys, every coach, and I'm not sure how big it is. I know in North Carolina, they make every coach for every high school a top at the beginning of the year. And they did our clubs as well. But so they send them out in the mail, and they send nice hoodies or jackets or whatever. So if you're a coach, look up XGrain. They do a great job with their store. It's really affordable, and you can do it on smaller, minimums and things like that. So a little plug for XGrain.
That looks slick. So, and then another, on the promotion side, that's what you're talking about, but you do the videos then? Because on Instagram, you have some slick videos. Is that what you do that yourself?
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I mean, like I said, I kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, right? But I enjoy it. It was something that, we tried to start off as just promoting our gym and putting stuff out, but I've really kind of fell in love with editing, just small stuff, nothing major, but I got my MacBook and I fell in love with the whole program. So
nice. That's awesome. So running the gym, right? Kind of, you talked about the kids buying in and the drawing them in. Obviously they're coming to you at the gym, right? And then you have that other hat of being a coach at the school. I mean, there's a lot of, there's some people out there that, do it well. How do you balance that, from a perspective, when you walk into the gym, what's your mindset compared to walking in the high school wrestling room, right? It's two different perspectives, right?
Man, completely. And that was probably a big learning curve for me when I first went into the high school last year. We have some good guys in there, so we had some good leaders anyway, but structure-wise, where you're teaching from, 80% of the kids probably aren't wrestling club, they may be seasonal, and so a club team that we take and compete in as a dual would it's just a different perspective. You know, I'm teaching more in-depth technique at the club. I'm going in with maybe a narrower focus on what we need to work on, and I don't have to spend as much time breaking everything down. You know, we can have more of a flow practice to start with, kids working from positions that they feel comfortable. Whereas when we're in a high school, I'm trying to build more of a cookie cutter program. The club, these kids are amazing when they come to us and they're trying to hit another level. So I'm just trying to build off their style, right? Like maybe he's a high crotch guy, maybe he's an underhook guy, and I try to build that. Whereas a high school team, everybody's looking for their style, and you have 2 or 3 of those elite kids. So you're trying to build an overall cookie cutter version, and then as they get there, try to give them something to branch off into. So, in dealing with, you know, coming out of the club and the intensity level and the practices that we run, what that does to our high school room. You know, I'll run kids off really fast, and that's not necessarily, I mean, I definitely don't want to run them off, but at finding that balance where these kids maybe need wrestling more than my club kids. So that was the thing. And at first I had that mentality where we're going to work, and if you don't like it, you know, do what you got to do. But
you can't sacrifice your expectations, right? You start bringing that expectation, and that culture erodes quickly, right?
Exactly. But some of these kids on the high school side need it. So you got to throw an arm around them, and maybe they'll never start. But what wrestling does for them is more than, you know, my mindset from a club of just win, win, win. So finding that balance. But I mean, at Lake Norman, we're still training to win state championships. You know,
right.
Now, so.
So what's the girls scene down there? Do you have girls at your gym?
Yeah, we have a few, and it's newer for us and our club. We do have a couple girls that are kind of leading the way from other clubs. There's Heaven Fitch, who's a heavy hitter for us and putting us on the national stage. And then I think she's ranked top 15 or so. And then nice. And we have a few girls coming up on the middle school side into our high school program that we're really excited about. We're trying to get to the point where we can have a standalone girls team at Lake Norman. We want to find the right coach for that, and I want to have a role in it, but we feel like it's important to have a female coach leading those girls. So just like you were saying, doing it the right way, and it's a different perspective. It's always a different perspective, especially entering a world like wrestling from a female's point of view. You know, I know from coaching softball girls and strength training and everything else that, you know, you might have to approach it a different way, and not that they're less intense, because my female athletes that I train are some of the best. Softball athletes are crazy driven and will do anything for you. But, you know, you might have to, you know, go along with them a little bit more. You're not going to get it from some of these girls by pointing a finger and getting on them. But if they feel like you're with you, they'll run through a wall for you, you know? So different perspectives, and we want to have that good female leader in there for them.
Right. Speaking of softball, and you said you've trained other programs, is there any takeaways or impacts you had from other sports that kind of changed you as a coach, or a specific story or anything that you have?
Yeah. I mean, specific story, I definitely have some, but I have our biggest thing I take away from strength training is our speed and agility side, as far as just a functional thing. Not necessarily mentally, but our foot speed drills and stuff translate a huge amount to our wrestlers. That's something that I was always a smaller athlete in football. I was a corner, so I had to be a speed guy. And so that's something that I focus more on. And that's what we bring to the table as far as strength and conditioning. I feel like there's a lot of people that can get kids stronger, but functionally stronger for wrestling, while keeping that speed and agility is one of our strengths. And that's something that less people, for whatever reason, take advantage of on the wrestling side. It's very, you know, common for a football kid to go into a strength training gym, where maybe not the same for a wrestler. And, you know, those top 10% are, but not as much. So yeah, that. And then, you know, we've had some kids that maybe, I mean, it's wild. We had a kid that's at West Point now that was a big wrestler when I come up, and when I was coming up coaching, I pushed him a lot. I love the kid, Creighton Wise. I love the kid to death. But one day it was like, you know, I pushed the strength training side and the wrestling side. One day it was like wrestling wasn't as much of a factor for him, and he had fallen in love with the strength training side. And I'm
Gotcha.
like, whoa, like
Wait a
we're
minute.
lifting to be a better wrestler, like what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of a shell shock to me, but then I kind of, I'm like, hey, we're here for you. I'm here to benefit you. If that's your goal,
Mhm.
I respect him telling me that. And so he wrestled as his hobby, during season, and I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. I drive kids I tell them all the time, don't tell me your goals because I'm going to hold you to them, And
Mhm.
so he told me his goals. He said, hey, this is fun for me. I want to wrestle and I want to focus on the strength training side. Was probably one of the strongest kids we ever had. Went to West Point because of it. And then,
Nice.
he's grappling at West Point doing jujitsu. His wrestling is helping him a lot with that. But he didn't need that state championship to validate his wrestling. And it kind of changed my gears a little bit as far as that goes. As long as these kids are successful and reaching their goals, it doesn't have to be on the mat as much as I may want it to.
Right. That's a good point. So, and you're a certified strength coach, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
And then
so
speed coach. So
okay.
it was definitely it is a huge passion of mine,
Mm.
and I spread myself a little thin sometimes, chasing different goals for myself or for kids with, like I said, the high school coaching job
Mhm.
and the club, strength training, jujitsu, and so I spread myself thin. But my main passions when it comes down to it are coaching wrestling and coaching strength and conditioning.
Right. Well, that probably gives you an overall, point of view on it too. That kind of
Yep.
helps, right? And
Yep.
so, what's what's the certification? I'm oblivious. Like I said, I coach up here in Ohio. We go through Coach Myers up here, Dustin Myers, like what he
Yeah.
has. I don't know what are the certifications or how does that work? Was that something you
There's
got
different.
later after you kind of got into
Yep.
MMA, or did you have that first? Or
When I was training MMA, as I said, I was training out of other gyms, and I was under um, one of the best powerlifting coaches in the world, Travis Mash.
okay,
He's actually a college near us, Lenore Ryan. He's their strength coach now, but he runs Mash Elite Performance, and he was my mentor. He helped me with everything along the way, and helped me with my fight career. And then after my injury, he supported us even when we're close by and we're competitors now.
mm-hmm.
He's always been a great mentor to me. So he's honestly the biggest factor in it. My certification was through ISSA. There's a there's a few different affiliations you can go through
Okay,
like everything else.
okay,
But my actual certification is through those guys, and then my continuing education. You gotta update that every few years. So
okay,
um, we've done a lot of different stuff along the way. I focused on the youth strength training as
mm-hmm.
part of that, and then like kinesiology stuff. Even like there's a continuing education for K taping, which
Oh,
some
okay.
of our guys will use. So yeah, just a little bit of
Wow.
everything.
That's awesome. You got a lot of knowledge that you have from all angles. I
Well,
mean,
try to.
that's
Like I
that.
said,
Yeah,
jack of
no,
all trades, but
yeah.
master of none, huh?
Well, if you're continuing learning though,
That's right.
that's the key, right? That's the
Yes,
key.
sir. Yes, sir.
I guess continuing learning, continue to change, right? One thing I like to ask people and just get their take is, do you have any rule changes, folk style, freestyle that you would like to see happen that you think would, make an impact on the sport?
Yeah. That's always a fun conversation. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about it a lot. One of our biggest things, training as much as we do and being a strength training program is we live by pushing the pace. And
Mm-hmm.
our motto at Lake Norman, is kind of play on words, but deep water. And so
Okay.
take everybody to deep water. Yeah. So deep water is kind of our philosophy there, and so we try to live by that. So with that being said, it would be cool for us to have something different with like involving push outs in folk style. I think that would
Mm-hmm.
be really fun. That's always kind of an X factor for a referee. I feel like some will hold you to a push out, those stall calls. Some don't want to make those calls. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it leaves more in the referee's hands. I'm sorry, I'm trying to click around here and get back to my
You're,
screen. I
you're
lost
all
you.
you're all good. No
There you go.
worries.
Okay.
No
So
worries.
yeah, so I would love to see pushouts incorporated into folk style, and then at least given that point, or an automatic stall if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you're if you're getting driven out. But obviously, there's a lot of variables to that. But I feel like that would that would crank up the excitement for us. And
Right.
I mean, honestly, I've never been a huge freestyle guy personally, but everybody else does it, and the girls are doing it in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
wish that we kind of had a uniform style for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we talked about bringing in the girls program. That's something that was also important to me, bringing on a girls coach, because they're used to freestyle being their number one sport. They've kind
Right.
of come up in that. And so for us, if I'm running a practice with 5 girls in there and a team full of boys, what pool am I teaching from? So
Right. Right.
it makes it a little difficult.
Right. I just had Coach Derone from Wisconsin Platteville on, and we were talking about that whole the push out. He had brought up a good point. He's like, it's overwhelmingly voted down by the coaches at the college level, but he's like thinks it's just a semantics thing. He's like, instead of calling it a push out, call it out of bounds rule, or a
Yep.
step out, because then coaches think, oh, you're going to be pushing people out. Just we almost got to change the terminology, and it's all in the
Right.
approach and the angle. But there's something there. I think I've had a few people on. And I'm not, in the college world, but so few people are like, well, it's going to create less action because now they're going to be focused on pushing people out. And, a few people know it's going to create more because now it's in the middle. Like you see all the action in freestyle. My thing is, I don't know which way, but I think they almost need to have a test pilot, kind of let's try it, let's see what it's like. And because right now that 4-point turn in college is it's a game changer, right?
Right.
That's a
And
game
then as
changer.
much like we're having these kind of gimmicky matches on the world stage anyway, as far as our jits guys versus wrestling. So it's not like we couldn't find a hybrid style for a tournament or two and kind of test that out. So I think it'd be something cool to look at anyway.
Yeah, now's the time to do it with these cards too. These cards popping up. Hey, let's try it, see what it looks like, right? And
for sure.
And kind of learn what we don't know, maybe. So,
but I don't buy into the less action, because you saw, Burroughs and Zahid the other week. It added a whole nother element on the edge right there and everything else. So I think that's great action.
Right. That
and you've got to push back in, so something big's going to happen.
Yeah. That was something. No, that didn't disappoint by any means.
No. I think in the first, there was like 2 shots in the first 2 seconds of the match. It was like a shot and a reattack. So it was amazing.
Yeah, it's I can't wait for more of those coming. What I mean? It's
sure.
I guess that's the positive in all this. Hopefully, that's going to transcend the sport in a different way. It's I think it's on the right path. I'm excited. So
me too.
So we'll see. So with the whole MMA, I've talked about this before in the wrestling thing. What's some other changes you'd like to see? Maybe we just talked about a rule change. Is there anything else you think could transcend wrestling if wrestling kind of was more like MMA, or I think the RTCs getting mixed in with MMA. In my opinion, I don't know the world, but I think sharing resources, right, eliminate that financial burden, right? You're kind of doing it there, mixing wrestling. You have any perspective or takes on that?
No, I think the more that we become uniform as far as just martial artists, because I still consider wrestling a martial art, but the more we blend it, the more we're evolving. I feel like I try to, like, my pricing structure at the gym. You can get an individual martial art like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or you can or strength training, or you can get an unlimited. And for the unlimited, it includes wrestling for the same price strength training would be. But I'm trying to find ways to kind of blend them together like that, because like you said, the RTCs and stuff like that, the more jiu-jitsu guys that are coming to learn our takedowns, and the more wrestling guys that are transitioning into jiu-jitsu. So the guys that don't go to the next level and wrestle at college or whatever, I try to push those guys, because we all love to compete at the end of the day. So I try to push those guys to go straight into jiu-jitsu. So I think we just feed each other, and nobody can be hurt there. I just, the more that the jits world and the wrestling world loses that mentality that I had in the beginning of wrestling versus jits, which is happening more every day. I think the more we're going to evolve.
Nice. Speaking of that, it's evolved, right, in the last 10 years quite a bit, right?
Yes.
And then within the next 10 years, who knows where the limit's going to be, but you have a youth, MMA, how's that work in the gym, right? You have a court, like you said, you kind of mix things together, but you also have a youth MMA world where parents probably like, I don't know if kids should be doing, well, you're probably teaching them right technique. It's just like wrestling. There's technique to it,
and
right?
We still don't throw, we don't really call it MMA as much. We separate the styles to make everyone feel comfortable, like you said. So we have a youth program and in jiu-jitsu, and where we've come what we've come to realize is maybe don't run that year round to start with. We started doing a youth season concurrent with our youth wrestling season. So jujitsu is Tuesday, Thursday, wrestling is Monday, Wednesday. They
Okay.
see each other in passing, and one, like if they don't have the grinder style for wrestling, or maybe they're just newer to grappling in general, I'll
Mhm.
push them more to the jujitsu side. And then
Okay.
if they're in jujitsu and they're running wild and they're just a tough, wild kid, then I'll throw them over to the wrestling side and see if he likes that side better, because a lot of it comes back to styles like that, and
Mhm.
thinkers versus grinders. And not saying wrestlers aren't thinkers, you know what I mean?
I
But
got you. I
it's a
got you.
different
Yeah.
vibe,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
at the kid level.
Yeah.
Not as much striking with the little ones. We'll do some technical stuff, but as a kid, our biggest self defense is going to be jujitsu. So I don't really believe in it.
Mhm.
I love striking as a sport, but I don't feel like it's the best self defense. If
Mhm.
we're in a striking range, your best self defense is to run away, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm engaged, that's why we treat grappling like a self defense. So I don't do the striking as much with the little ones, more grappling on both ends, and then try to let them find their way. Because for me, um, sounds bad being a coach of it, but I don't push a lot of kids into MMA. If they
Mhm.
come back to me later and they're like, "Hey, this is a passion of mine," then I push it. But it's moms will get mad at me for one, right? And then two, it's not so. I know I took a lot of damage. I've still continued to take damage through MMA. So if that's something that they're ready for, and they come back to me and they're like, "Hey, this is where my life's guiding me," then great. But my goal is to put kids in college to wrestle or play any sport or just go in general, and then build their life and choose to do MMA. Don't be forced into it.
Right, right. Just like anything, really, right? If you're forced
Yep.
into wrestling, you're not gonna last very long, right?
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right. So, anyone I should have on in North Carolina that with your contacts, or even outside of North Carolina, that you think would be a
Man,
good
there's a
show?
lot of great coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of great coaches around. I'll give you well, I mean, our let's see, Trip Rogers just won the 4A state title for us, dual
Okay.
title, and he's a coach over at Huff High School. He's my biggest rival, so he'll get a
Okay.
kick
Nice.
out of
Yeah.
me putting him up there. But yeah, and then Josh Kindig
Okay.
is surely, yeah, I'm sure you know
Mhm.
Kindig. He's up the mountain from us. He's like probably 45 minutes an hour from us. He's doing some good things up there, so he's always a good one to reach out to. And then there's other clubs. Dark Horse Wrestling Club does a great job. They're out of North Carolina. And then, but like I said, a good personality. Kindig and his dad are cool people to talk to, and he was Division I finalist, so
Mhm.
something very cool.
Cool. Cool. Where can they find you at? What your social handles? Where can they find you?
At combat_athletics is our
Okay.
Instagram, and then Facebook. Everything else is just Combat Athletics. You can search it and find us. But yeah,
Okay.
at combat_athletics. Check us out. Same thing with YouTube. We put a lot of videos out and put a lot of technique stuff out there. So we'd love y'all to check it out.
Yeah, yeah, your Instagram, like I said, your videos, it's doing a good job with that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Anything else you want to ask, share, tell, talk about, or anything out?
No, man. No, I mean you did a great job covering everything, and
Mhm.
I'm super awkward at these things, so you did a great job
No,
making me feel comfortable in it and
I'm
everything else.
awkward
So
too. I'm
I
still learning
appreciate
for
what you do.
sure. I'm still learning,
Hey,
man.
you got a great setup, man. Keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
dude.
Well, thanks. No, we'll have to have you back on. Once gets
Yes,
closer to
sir.
your season, man. Because you got a little bit of a stretch here to kind of to sift through, and then at least you guys are having a season. Up in Ohio, they just announced yesterday. We're going to proceed as is, but I mean, we got the states around us, closing down. So, as a
That's what we're
coach up
worried about.
here, we're kind of like, okay, are we gonna, is it gonna be shut down tomorrow or whatever it is? So, as of this recording, we're still on, but it's like, how do you manage that? And we'll see
Every
how it
day.
goes. One day at a time, and that's all you can do,
Yep.
right? So,
Yep. Keep them working, man. Keep them working.
yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate your time. Good
Yes,
luck this
sir. Thank
season.
you.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.